Hello everyone and welcome back to the BloomBox Show. I'm Kathy, the corporate executive of BloomBox.
I'm Dhruv Seth. I'm the marketing head at BloomBox.
So today we are sitting here with someone who's literally seen India evolve both financially and socially.
You're saying I'm old, is it?
I'm seeing you have a lot of experience. Someone with such a rich background, Mr. Luis Miranda, sir.
Yeah, he's a veteran. He has built HDFC Bank, IDFC Private Equity, and now he supports young entrepreneurs and supports them through various means.
So, sir, you've been a part of India's journey from seeing it evolve so much. If you had to pick one biggest roadblock that we're facing right now, and something which if we solve that, we'll have a breakthrough in India, particularly.
I think it's our belief in ourselves. We've grown up to think that we can't do things. The West is a great thing. China is great. No, we got to believe that we can do things. We can be world champions. We've been in the past. We need to not live in the past, but live in the present and live in the future and focus on that. The fact is that we've got some of the brightest people. We've got great entrepreneurial talent in the country. We've got a great demographic, workforce over here. And if we just sort of believe that we can do it, we can do it. We waste too much time sometimes pulling each other down or not having enough faith in ourselves.
So, sir, any on-ground examples on how to actually do that?
Sure. Look, for example, that when someone comes up with a breakthrough, wherever you're always there to pick holes in it, as to say, celebrate the success. But if it happens somewhere else, we talk about how fabulous. I'll give you a simple example. I was in Varanasi last week.
Yeah.
And the place, everyone thought, oh, it's a dirty place, it's terrible, it's crowded. Actually, I found it vibrant. It wasn't as dirty as expected. Would I go to the water? No. But the fact is that it's life. There is a buzz, and that's what's important. Things will be crowded in India because we have a lot of people.
Yeah.
And things will be noisy because we're a noisy people. Things will be colorful because we are a colorful people. So, and that's it. So as opposed to looking at those as negatives, I look at those as positives. It's a sign of vibrancy. And I think that's what's important. When people come to India, they say there's a sense of energy, which is missing in most parts of the world.
Yeah.
We just got to believe that we can do it. And what's important also in this is having the right policies to be able to do this, which means that the way the government works has to change, the way banks have to change, the way social networks have to operate, social security measures, all of that has to change in order for us to be able to get to this Viksit Bharat that the government talks about.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So you have worked in both traditional finance, impact investing. So how do you see, the role of finance evolving in the next decade?
See, I've been away from finance to the last 15 years, but managing money will continue to be a big part of the economy. There's going to be a huge amount of money that's generated, and managing that is going to be will require people. What form it will take, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but clearly, the move again from just traditional secure investments to moving more into equity markets and stuff like that will have a huge impact on the economy and the way we work.
And I've interned at Marico Innovation Foundation, and I've seen you have been a jury member at that as well. So any idea about the impact investing side? Marico Innovation Foundation has been helping, and you are part of the jury as well for clean tech, climate tech. So how do you see that going forward? And
clearly, we have a lot of problems, and I'm a bit on the other side for impact investing because I struggle with that.
okay.
And for me, I look, for example, at Jamshedpur City and Tata Steel.
Yeah.
That's impact investing.
Okay.
But they never called it that. It was just a business investment which had huge impact. Similarly, when we at IDFC Private Equity invested in a road company, those roads connected different villages and towns to each other and generated growth in the economy of those places. That's impact investing.
Yes.
Or when we to develop Delhi airport. And therefore, we saw the surge in traffic and the number of jobs and the number of flights, etc. That's impact investing. We never called it that. So calling something impact investing as a challenge, because at the end of the day, it has to make economic sense. And sometimes I find that if it doesn't make money, then you should look at the jobs that were created, look at the impact it made. But then you have two sort of objectives. So my point is that as long as you're working on something which is going to be improving the lives of people, that's impact investing. HDFC Bank was an impact investment in a way. We basically facilitated access to finance to so many people across the country.
So, sir, as you said, money management is going to become more and more important. And the fintech space is developing so much now. So, we have GPay, we have Paytm. What is something else that the world needs, or India especially? What is that the fintech founders are doing a little wrong, or if they improve their probably, what is something that will come off there?
So it's interesting when you were, before this podcast, you were chatting and you told me that once you came over here, you understood the role of finance, etc. That's so important. So I'm not a fintech investor, so I don't know much about it. But I think that there's a lot of hype about it, and it's important to be able to create those opportunities, make things seamless. But end of the day, it's all about how are you making the cost of finance, the accessibility easier to people. And that's what we got to focus on. And quite often, there's a lot of stuff being done, tinkering on the side. Like, for example, even in insurance, which I'm involved with, I chair a health insurance company. And there are a lot of fintech players around over there, but I think they're still very marginal over here. And the bottom line is that, how are you sort of going to play a major role in terms of either lowering premium costs for policyholders or helping facilitate claim settlements in a more efficient manner, and obviously having access to everyone to have insurance for all. So those are some of the things to look at in a way that makes sense.
So accessibility is the...
Yes, and those are things that you need to focus on. And despite all the hype about fintech, for example, in insurance, it's still a very marginal player. It's on the sidelines. Will it grow? It should. But I think entrepreneurs need to sort of take a longer, term view on this. HDFC Bank today is the most valuable bank in the country.
Yeah.
But it's a 30-year-old bank. It's taken us time to get there. Now, all you young people say that, the world is different today, and companies can go, extremely fast, looking at the way AI, ChatGPT has grown, etc., etc. Yeah, I guess I'm a bit old school in that.
So during your time at IDFC, could you share a successful investment and one investment that, did not go as planned as you thought?
Sure. So to me, obviously the first investment you do is always a special one. To us, it was GMR. And we invested in the power business of theirs because everyone at that time was skeptical that you could make money investing in infrastructure, and investing in power was considered to be the worst sector to invest in. And that's something which we, invested in. And it's soon after, and we tried to sort of also create a structure which would make this investment possibly successful later on. So the reason why also that was financially a great investment was also the way we structured it. And we got some of the rules changed to facilitate such a structure for us to do. It was to do with how you define non-banking finance companies, how do insurance companies be allowed to invest in a structure like ours, etc. We worked on all those. So there was a lot of regulatory change that was involved. It was also to do with how do you sort of, create a structure which made sense. And then, soon after I made the investment, one of the underlying themes of which we invested in just evaporated when Chandrababu Naidu lost the election in Andhra Pradesh. The new government came in YS already, and he basically reopened the power purchase agreement of one of our investments. So that became a huge nightmare. And then, obviously, the company worked very closely with the government and sort of, reworked that out in a more efficient manner. And then came the bid for the Delhi airport, which we participated with them. We learned it from scratch. We did nothing about airports. Nobody really in India knew how to run an airport. So remember, we had a 2-day or 3-day event at the ISB campus in Hyderabad, where we sat down and we got on the best people from all over the world to come and teach us what's an airport about, what's an airline about, how do you do it. And from there, we sort of, participated in the bid for the Delhi airport, and we were successful, and we built that out, and then we got sued by Reliance, and then we won the case in the Supreme Court, and then we went public, and that public, IPO was at a really tough time. We nearly sort of didn't make the timeline for that. We did it, and then within a year, the price shot up 10 times, and so, we got out at the right time. So that, to me, was a great story. The other company, which also I'm very excited about, is their investment in the Manipal Group. We invested in their hospital business and then in their education business. We invested in both. And Ranjan Pai is a fabulous entrepreneur. And and you see the way the group, both these businesses have grown. It's been, this fascinating. And when the hospital, the healthcare business, they got invested in by Temasek, Ranjan called back to St. Louis, this is what the business is worth today, but you were the one who gave the first check. So it's that. There's so many lessons learned about just focus, execution, etc., which are so important. We have a lot of bad investments. I'll talk about one of them. I won't mention the name of the company, but this was a company which every time we looked at it, we sort of were concerned about governance issues over there. And one of our advisors said, defined it very properly with them, saying they have a generational propensity to fraud. But, we always have these reasons as to why we shouldn't do the investments. So I said, but listen, why don't we give the entrepreneur a chance to respond to what our concern was? So we went down, and I had a laundry list of points of this. And one, your board has to, all your family members have to quit the board. He said yes. All your independent directors aren't really independent. I want them to work. He said yes. They said, you have certain non-core parts of the business and that which is like a black box, those should be sold out. He said yes. So you bring in a professional CEO. He said yes. So whatever we said, I thought was like I was a brilliant negotiator. And he agreed to everything. And I said, wow, I came off feeling like, we got a great deal and he's agreed to everything. We ended up losing money on that because lesson that I learned was a leopard doesn't change its spots. Okay. And, and whatever we tried to do in terms of structure or contracts, if the underlying sort of situation was bad, you got up.
And which sector was the company?
Yeah, so you guys right, Kathit. So it's important to we look, for example, at GMR, Manipal, Ashoka Bilkal. These were founders who were passionate people committed to building out great businesses and having an impact on society.
Yeah, so it's all that too. Passion overcomes skills sometimes.
So that's right.
Yeah. So something for the students, you've been in so many leadership roles and all. What separates exceptional leaders from just like average leaders? What is something people can develop? How to develop that?
So look, for example, I look at HDFC Bank, Aditya Puri. He started the bank when I was a junior guy at Citibank. In fact, this morning we were having a conversation. He called me up on something. He just led from the front. He didn't work long hours necessarily, but he was extremely efficient, a good delegator. And his part always was that, if I have to do your job, then I don't need you. So what's the point of having a good team? So be able to delegate and authorize, empower people to take decisions, lead from the front. I remember when we had a challenge developing our retail business, because none of us came from the core team, never came from a retail background. And when we were trying to build that out, we had a couple of false starts. And then he said, okay, I'm going to lead it. And he took charge of it and built that out in an efficient manner. And that's some of the lessons that I learned over years about leading from the front, taking charge of stuff, working hard, getting out of your comfort zone. Those are the important things to look at. And at times, getting other people to do what they're supposed to do. Because if you're doing everyone else's jobs, then you don't need to fire all those people.
Definitely.
So my question is in India, unicorn status is the main thing that, each and everyone, a startup looks forward to. So, should that be our focus, or should our founders, focus on other things, building a sustainable business rather than chasing a certain valuation?
You look at HDFC Bank. It's India's most valuable bank, one of the most valuable companies in the country today. A top 10 or 15 bank in the world. We started, we never thought that. Okay. I mean, if I'd known that, I may not have stayed my tongue so early. But the fact is that what were we concerned? We were concerned about, let's build a bank that will give all these foreign banks a run for their money. Let's ensure that we can build a great Indian bank. That is it. It was never about we're going to make ourselves a lot of money. That comes in later. Today, there's too much focus on how do you make money. And I think that's bad. For example, when I meet some young entrepreneur and they tell me, Louis, this company's going to be worth so many crores, $1 billion, I've already lost interest. Okay. My question always is, how's it going to impact the country? How's it going to impact lives of people? How's it going to make this a better world? Okay. So that's important. So I think today, because of television and the glamorization that's happened, it's all about how do you make money? And I was listening to this great podcast my son told me to watch. I don't remember what's the name of the person, but it's Scott Galloway talking in it. It's actually about the challenge young men have today. And he said, obviously today in capitalism, it's all about how to become a man. This is one who makes a lot of money. But how do you make a lot of money is by making a little bit of money first. Yeah. And that money, we might build that and build it. But today, if you're already saying, I'm going to win this hugely successful company, unfortunately, we get carried away with success stories like Facebook and Flipkart, etc. But there are a lot of other businesses which are doing great and making people very comfortable with their lives. But if we just focused on trying to build companies to solve problems, money will come in.
Somewhere consumer loyalty has also changed over the years, if you got to say. But at the end, if there's so much competition, they do come back to someone who's actually making an impact. So that does make sense.
Yes. But I was told this story by Captain Nair. We invested in Leela Hotel and Captain Nair. It started that business. And I remember talking to him about why, one time our hotel in Bangalore was extremely expensive, the most expensive. We got a lot of flack for it because it was outrageously priced rooms. Because there was a shortage of rooms in Bangalore at that time. And he said, Louis, there's nothing like loyalty in the hospitality business. Today, I have a shortage of rooms, so therefore I can make money. There will be a time when there will be a glut in the rooms, and all those companies who we've signed contracts with will come back and want to renegotiate lower. So everyone is. So I think that's a lesson that I've learned over time. This customer loyalty thing is mythical because they want the best price. So you've always got to sort of succeed in this. And
the Indian consumer mindset.
It's about the customer. So you always have that. And I remember going back to a lesson that I learned in banking from a guy called Nasser Munji, who was on our board. And he talked about how when a customer comes into the bank the first time, they're very excited the way they were greeted, the way they were talked to, the way their problem was settled. And they go back very happy. Yes. The next time they come in, they have the same treatment, and they're still very happy. They come the third time, and they're happy. But by the time they come to the fifth time and they get the same level of service, they won't be happy. Because they change their expectation because of what's happened. So you've got to constantly sort of keep upping it over there because customers will get more of the same level of service. So that's always a challenge.
If you had to start a startup today, and if it was not something in the financial or policy sector, what would you start? What are the biggest issues in India that can, as you said, impactfully change and become a business?
I think the two areas which require for us to do. One is economic development. I mean, I believe that economic development is the best way to get people out of poverty. So how do you therefore improve the ease of doing business? And that's something like we did at the Indian School of Public Policy. Our flagship report was on the ease of administrative reform. How can the government sort of position itself as a big empire? That's the first thing we did. Second area, which is what also we're working on over here, is how do you make healthcare affordable, accessible, and available?
Yeah.
COVID has shown that, public health is such an important area. The first non-profit that I really got involved with after I retired was in healthcare. It was an organization called SNEHA. And I remember when I met the founder of SNEHA, she told me, Louis, we like you on a board. And I said, no, honestly, I know nothing about healthcare, but I want to do education work, etc. And she said, Louis, if a kid doesn't have proper nutrition to the age of 3, there's no way whatever you do in education is not going to work out. So that's something which I learned. And public health, as we've all seen after COVID, has been such an incredible place. But today, still, every year, I remember JP Narayan, who started the Lok Sabha party, he came to my house for a dinner in April 2018. And the thing that he said, which remained in my head, was every year 6 crore people go back into poverty because of healthcare costs. That's a huge amount. How do we avoid that? Until today's, it's now 6 years. We're on April already. 6 years. And still, there's been no major change in that, despite all these government policies. I think we need to fix that problem.
Yes, definitely. Oh, a last rapid fire round. Should we start?
Okay.
A book that shaped your thinking.
It's a book written by a professor of mine, George Stigler. I studied in his class in Chicago, at Chicago Booth. He won the Nobel Prize, and his book was Memoirs of an Unregulated Economist. And it's really showed how the impact of government is actually detrimental to economic growth and how free enterprise makes so important.
The toughest decision you had to make.
Having kids. It says because everything else you do could have been done by somebody else. Kids is something that you create. I mean, it's yours. And you have a responsibility. And they're not going away fast. You just don't walk away and say, okay, now I've had enough. I'm going to sell it to somebody else. No, you can't do that, dude. The way.
One piece of advice to your younger self.
I think just work harder. I worked hard, but I think if I had to look back, I should have worked harder.
Okay. Do we need more entrepreneurs or better ones? This is a very debatable question.
Well, I mean, obviously we need better ones, but how do you get better ones unless you have more?
Okay.
So therefore you have more, because of that you can then sift around, because otherwise it gets very difficult to select. So I would pick the two, I would say more.
Is success in business more about skill or timing?
I think it's about luck.
Oh, that's that.
Which is therefore more than maybe timing. Because, I look back at all this stuff, and I guess we'll talk about it separately, but luck plays a large role. So if you look at skill versus timing, I'd say I would put it down as timing. And timing itself is a skill.
Yeah, that's...
And timing also can be luck.
It's all connected. What's the most underrated skill every entrepreneur must master in today's changing times?
I think don't take yourself too seriously. I think when you take yourself too seriously, you sort of believe that you're fabulous, or if you're successful, you think that it's all because of you, and then you sort of make one big blunder. Or if things don't go out well, you take it internally over there and say, oh, what have I done? It's life. Life is about failures. You've got this thing on the wall over your failures, not the opposite. It's part of success. So if you don't take yourself seriously, I think that's an important lesson for people.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest financial lesson entrepreneurs ignore, or just young people nowadays?
Cash. Cash is king, as they say. How are you going to make money at the end of the day? I'm old-fashioned. I mean, I'm old school.
Yeah.
I look at a business and think of that. It's all fine. You're going to do all this fabulous stuff, but how is it going to make money? And I know that, today a lot of people don't necessarily look at that and look at it
Yeah,
as a lot of
look at the valuation.
And look at that. How is it going to make cash?
Uh,
After being especially in so many startups, it's all about how do you, money comes in, how does money go out?
You definitely. With so much noise in the startup world, what's the most practical way to identify a genuine opportunity versus just a hype, as you said earlier?
To me, it's difficult. It's difficult because when I look at some of the ideas that I've had, sometimes people thought it was crazy, but it worked out because I worked hard. So I think, if I was to look at it, I would also when I look at a startup, I'm looking really at the person. What's the person? How impassioned the person is? How driven? Will that person handle resilience? That's what I look for.
So like right now, AI. Every startup is basically using AI.
Yeah.
So you think it's a hype or...
It's almost a hype. Everyone knows this Me Too. We got to get away from this one Me Too thing. Everyone follow the crowd. Whatever I've started, whether it was HDFC Bank, it was unconventional to leave a foreign bank job to start a private sector bank. Today, it's normal. It wasn't at that time. It wasn't conventional to come back to India way back before that in '89. I came back. It was crazy to invest in infrastructure. People thought it was the most stupid thing to do. You can't make money investing in infrastructure. We made. Again, starting a public policy school, why would you do that? There's a sort of more profit. Set up an engineering school, make money. But we said, no, we want to do something which will solve a problem. So I think it's going against the tide has always been what excited me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
How do you define success at this stage of your life?
is it having an impact on the lives of people?
Best answer you could give. Definitely.
Sure. I mean,
Dhruv, thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank
It's
you.
great being over here.
Thank you for being our
Kathy.
guest.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir.
Good.
thank you. Do like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, follow us for more such podcasts. Yeah. Thank you.
so much.
Thanks for having me here.